Okay, everyone, we are live. So welcome to our onboarding number 1. So this is a series of 4 onboarding trainings, and that we'll be offering every week. All right. And so for today's session, we're going to be covering, we're going to be focused around the groups and communication. So mainly surrounding the groups, but we'll also talk about a few other things, like how to add users. Especially we want you to complete your homework tasks. So one of those will be to, create the users for all of your staff members, or office admin right off the bat, in order to get them in a group so that you can communicate internally. So on top of that, I'll show you guys how to update roles for any of your users. And also show you how to add them to a group. We'll also cover, sending out newsletters, group posts, and we'll finish off with sending private messages to your users. All right, so if everyone can hear me in here, feel free to type in the chat. Just let me know that you can hear me clearly and that you can see my screen. And at any point in time during today's training, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to type in the chat box and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Okay. So the very first thing that we're going to cover today is how to create a group. All right. So now it's very basic, and you really only have to do this once or twice, depending on how many groups you're creating. But you will notice that on your Hubbli site, you're going to have a tab or a button on your menu bar called Group. Okay. So we're already on that page now, but let's say we were somewhere else on the site. You can always just go find your Groups menu, and you're going to click on that. Okay. So now, if you're logged in as the site administrator, which you should be, or you have, the administrator role on your site, then you actually will be able to create a group. Unlike parents or any basic users who, they won't have the ability to create a group. So this button here that says create a group, it just simply won't show up for them. Okay, so something important to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that whoever creates this group initially is actually automatically going to be assigned as the group administrator. Okay, and I'll fill you in on what that means. But essentially, they would be able to communicate with their own group right off the bat. Okay, so, and just to be clear, they don't have to be an admin of your site, just like you guys are. So actually be a parent if you wanted it to be, but most commonly you would be appointing the group admin designation to a teacher role, so that in essence a teacher can then communicate with his or her own classroom, right, so to the parents of their class. And so there's a couple of different settings that we're going to go through as well when we create the group. But basically, there's 2 different types of communication groups. So one would be, like a 2-way communication where, teachers and parents can both communicate forth within the group wall so that everyone can see. Right. The other way is one-way communication where it's only teachers, starting the conversation. Parents can always reply back to an email that they receive, and it will go back to the original poster. Okay, we'll talk about those, and I'll show you the settings. So let's start by clicking Create a Group. Okay, so the us to do is to just name the group and also give it a description. So, by the way, everything that you see here that we're going to set up initially, it can always be modified. You can always edit these settings at any time after the group is created. So we're going to go ahead and create a staff group here. Okay, call that onboarding training. Okay, so this is, typically you'd want this group right off the bat, just so that you have that, and it's a good way to introduce the system, a new system to your team. All right, so that's step one, create group and continue. That'll take us to step number 2. Great, so here we have our privacy options. Now, typically what you want to do is select private group. Okay, so that will ensure that unless you're adding that parent or member to the group, nobody else will have access. They can try and get in, but unless they're a member of that group, they will not be able to see any of the content, and all of your content and messages, communication will all stay private. So definitely want to go with private group there. Now, if you want, so you can set up a hidden group. However, the only difference between private and hidden groups are that, really a hidden group won't be visible. So the name of that group won't be visible to members unless they're actually a part of it. Okay. Okay. So the next step here is group invitations, right? So pretty straightforward. Who can invite others? Well, I'll tell you this: the only way to add members to the group is actually from the back end, which parents won't have access to anyway. So you want to go with group admins only. You'll notice that's a common trend actually with these settings. That just means that the admin has full control over who is part of the group and who's not. So group posts here. So which members of the group are allowed to post? So now a group post is basically an email that goes out. So we call it a post, but really it's just like a tidbit of information that you would write in the group, and from there you hit post update. So what that does is it sends out an email. So let's say you have 25 parents in the group. It'll send out an email, the same email, to all 25 of those parents, and you only have to enter it and post it once. So it's kind of like sending an email, kind of like a mass email to all the group members there. So now, depending on your preference, and we've seen this done both ways. Typically, I'll recommend group admins only to start with. That way, it's set up like one-way communication. So that's what I mentioned before. So what that means then is parents will not be able to start a conversation that will trigger an email to go to everyone in the group. So all the parents, right? So that means that only teachers or designated group admins, which can be parents, right, but typically teachers, can communicate with the group, okay? But keep in mind, so even if you have it so group admins only can make a post, then parents can always still communicate back to whoever originally posted that. Okay, so if a teacher posted it, I'm a parent and I've got an email, I can simply just reply from my email inbox, and that will go back to the teacher's inbox. It will also be archived within Hubbli in the teacher's private messages. Now, so let's move on to comments here. Very similar to the posts, but if you ever use anything like Facebook, you'll know what a comment is on top of a post. You can say that only group admins can do that, or if you want parents, to be able to chime in after the fact, you can set this to all group members basically, so that they wouldn't be able to start the conversation and notify everyone else in the group, but they could always log in and make a comment. If you don't want that, I recommend just going with group admins only. That's definitely the safe bet, and there's no harm there. All right, and finally, email subscription defaults. Very basic. You want this set to all email. You'll notice that they're already set up to receive communication. Okay, so that's best practice here. All right, so that was the hardest part. And once we're done with that, and you guys will become experts at setting up your groups. So now we just have a few more steps here. So group docs, I'm going to leave all these on, for training purposes, but you can always just toggle this on or off just with that check mark here. Just something to keep in mind. And, with most features here, you can choose, like a minimum role, whether it's a group admin or a member, to be able to create these types of documents. And what these docs are, it's a collaborative tool, just like Google Docs. So, someone could post a document, like a staff member, and, like a fellow staff member could go, they get home and basically make changes to that document. So it becomes like a working document for your groups. Okay, so let's go to the next step. So here it wants you to upload a profile photo. So, and that's not for your individual account, that's actually for the group. So, if you have a class logo, or typically it'll be the, the picture of the teacher for that class, so that parents can easily recognize their groups. Okay, so I'm just going to skip over this. Let's go to the next step. And yeah, I definitely recommend, it will brighten up the groups, and it will help make things look nice. And so now we are on media control here. Again, I'm going to leave this on, but you can toggle it off if you'd like. If it's on, just keep in mind everyone in the group will be able to share pictures of each other. Those will all be archived within the media folder. Okay, so there's a media tab in the group that you'll see in a moment. And so that's it. That's the last step. You don't have to worry about inviting anyone. You just have to click finish, and I'm going to show you in a moment how we add members to the group, okay? So that can all be done in bulk as well. And so, by the way, here is the group. So this is kind of a sneak peek of what the group looks like. And we're going to go over, all the features in a few minutes here. But before we do that, what we're going to talk about is how to create users, right? So we can't add any members to this group yet because we don't have any, right? So when you get your site and it's brand new, what you do is add all of your staff members or admins to the site so that everyone can start using it, and more importantly, so that you can add them to groups and start communicating with them right off the bat. So to do that, we need to go to the back end. So what we're looking at is the front end, and the back end we call the dashboard. And that's only accessible to administrators of the site, right? So teachers, parents, they can do everything from the front side here. But you guys, as the admin, will always be able to name and click on dashboard. So I'm just going to do that and open in a new tab here. And so you'll notice it has a very different look. So you can always tell, whether you're in the back or whether you're looking at the front website. So here we go. So this is the dashboard view. You'll notice a whole bunch of features on the left-hand side here. But what we want to look for right now is users. Okay, so we'll hover over user, and we're just going to add new member here. Perfect. So what you to a form on your website, and it's parent registration. So go ahead and fill that out. And after you fill this form out and hit submit, it's going to then create a user, okay? And that user will be depending on your site. And then once we activate them, they will be in the user list, and we can then manage them, add them to groups, and communicate with them. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to quickly fill out this form. Okay, I'm just going to use some generic names here. Okay, so for the username, just something to note. It needs to be all lowercase and no spaces. Okay, and so let's just add email. And it should also be first name, last name, the username. Okay, and then so you can add a password here. I've got a password manager, so I'm just going to add something secure. You probably would want to add, something easy, but to you guys, it's going to go out as a notification to the user so that they have their login information as well. And so let's just fill in this information here. If you guys want to receive text messages, then you definitely want to have mobile phone in there. And then, of course, the CAPTCHA to avoid any spam. So let's hit submit. Perfect. So it looks like everything went through. That's great. And so I've already added one actually before we started this session. So now we've got 2 in there. However, I want to show you what happens next, right? So I also want to talk about how this form can be used. So right now, it's a parent registration form. What it does is it adds a parent with the parent role to your site, so to your user list. Now, it doesn't have to be used this way, where you guys as the admins are adding the parents and then approving them. It can actually, if you guys want to save time, you can actually use it where it's a registration form that the parents are filling out. Okay, it can even be exclusively done that way. And then as they're filling them out, you guys are notified, and you can choose whether you're going to approve or activate their account on the site or not, right? So you have full control of that. So let's say, this user registered, you get notified, and now we want to go ahead and okay? That way, when we do that, they'll appear in the user list. We can go ahead and add them to groups. So let's go back to the dashboard. Okay, we're going to look for forms now. And under forms, we need to find the the parent registration form. Okay, so let's scroll down. And there it is. Parent registration form, perfect. So now if we hover over settings, you guys might have a little bit of a different view here, but you will see pending activations. Okay, so let's click on that. And sure enough, it is. So that is our Sam Smith teacher or staff member. And what we're going to do is activate. So you guys know, typically this would be used almost exclusively for parents, right? However, we're using it for staff member right now. And there's a reason why we're doing that, because I want to show you guys how you create roles after the fact, okay? So let me go ahead, and I'm just going to hit activate. So it says, are you sure? And I'm going to say, okay. Okay, so a couple things happen there. So one, the email address that we just activated for so that triggered an email to go out with his login credentials. Okay, so Sam now has an email, that will give him access to your site. And on top of that, he's also been added to the user list. So even if Sam doesn't check his email, his email inbox at all, you can still add him to the group and start communicating with Sam. So he will be set up to receive emails, because of those settings that we had previously set up. So let's go ahead and go to your user list. Now I did mention that this is a parent registration form, so by default he's going to have that parent role, um, which is actually what I want, just to train you guys on how to update the role. So first things first, we need to find him. So I can always scroll down and look for him, but since we have a search tool right here, I'm just going to search Sam. Okay, so we found Sam. I just typed in Sam, so it would have brought up other Sams too. Luckily, we've just got one. Okay. So there's a couple things we can do here. You'll notice there's these bulk actions right here as well. I'm not sure if you guys can see that drop. See, there's add to groups, there's remove from groups, and there's update role on this site. So it doesn't look like it's showing you exactly what's there, but now you can see it. So it says update role, but basically what it is a drop down, and you'll be able to really easily see that on your own site. So we need to basically update the role for Sam. So what we're going to do is just check Sam off. We're going to go update role. Okay, that's just under bulk actions. And Sam is a staff member, so let's click OK. Hit apply. So now you notice there's the parent role right there. And in just a minute, it's going to refresh. Okay, now I can actually filter at the top by staff right here. Okay, perfect. So there's Sam. We've just made Sam a staff member based on the role, not the group, so they're definitely separate. Now, if we go, let's just add another staff member here. So I've already created one beforehand. Here we go. So we've got John Smith, maybe Sam's brother. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing, update role, and we're going to go to staff. Okay, so I'm going to hit apply, and we should, after that, have 3 staff, and you can always filter by the role at the very top there. Great, so now we click staff at the top. We should have 3. I've already had one set previously, so it's just these 2 new ones at the top here. Okay, so that's great. So now we're all set up with the roles. And by the way, we can always adjust your form so that, if it's an admin form rather than a parent form and you guys want to be ones of your user creations, then no problem. We can actually modify the form so that you can just select the role and it will automatically add, either staff member or parent based on selection in that form. So anyways, now that we have the users here, what we want to do is add them to the group. So that's the main goal here. And typically that would be, one of the first things that you do after you create them, just so that they are set up and ready to go for communication. So there's two ways to add a member to a group. So let's take back over here. And the first is just to hover over, the name, so this user account, and just click on group membership. Okay, so what that does is it brings up a list of all of your groups. And, if you've just created the staff group, then you're only going to see that. So what you want to do is just check it off, hit apply, and then, so I'm just going to refresh this page now just to verify. But um, so this is how you would add just an individual member. Okay, and here we go. Let's check. So okay, so we can verify it's checked off now. Now there's another way to verify on the front end, which I'll show you in just a minute here. So let's now show you how to do it in bulk. So also really easy, we're already on this page. You just highlight as many users as you want. You can also highlight all of them from the top, but we don't need Zach because we've already added him. So now under the bulk actions, you just have to click on that. And I know you guys can't see the drop down, but we've got a couple options. So it says add to groups, easy enough. And when I click on that, this is what shows up. And of course, we want to add to the staff group. And then we hit apply. And just don't hit this apply button as well right here just to be safe. Great. And then of course we can always click on group membership and confirm. Yep, so those are checked off now. Okay, great. Now what we're going to do, we're going to head over to the front end, okay? And I'm a teacher now or just an admin, doesn't matter, but we're going to find our own groups. Okay, so to do that, we're going to first click Hubblyville, right? That's the name of the school. You can either click visit site or just on the name. Perfect. Now, so if I was logged in as a teacher or someone who is not a site admin, I wouldn't be able to see this create a group. What I would see, however, is my groups. Okay, so that you'll always see. And since we created that staff group, it should appear here under my groups, right? There we go. So these are some other groups that I'm a member of or a group admin of. But this is the one that we just created. Okay, so let's click on the staff group. Perfect. Okay, so this is our first look at the group. And I'm going to take you through pretty much the most basic and common tasks that either someone in the office or a teacher would be doing right from within the group. So we're going to cover how to make a group post and how to send a letter, and then we'll finish off with sending a message, which can be thought of as just an email. Okay. So making a group post. So as I mentioned before, a group post is essentially just an email that goes out to all of the group members. So we've got our own Hubbli kind of template that's standard across all group posts, but what really matters is the content because that's what parents are going to read, or the staff group in this case. So you'll notice it says what's new in staff group, and then we've got this text box underneath here. Okay, so to make a post is actually just click anywhere in here. Okay, you'll notice that these options come up now. So post update is right there. So couldn't get easier. All you need to do is start typing here. You click post update, and seconds later, all members of the group will receive this post via email. All right, pretty cool. So I'm going to hit post update. Okay, so now Zach, Sam, and John, they are all going to get this notification from Naomi. That's not my real name. I'm just logged in as Naomi. And they're going to receive this via email. So I also mentioned before that, regardless of whether those other members can log in and make a post here to notify everyone, they can always reply. So this post is going to come through by email. Those members will see it in, whatever email service they're using, whether it's Yahoo, Gmail, whatever it may be, and they can, they don't actually have to log in to the system. So they can just go ahead, hit reply, and it will go back to Naomi's email inbox. Whoops. Okay. All right, so on top of that, you'll also notice that there's email deliverability stats down here. So you can see that's been delivered to 3 people. Now, if those members, right, John, Zach, and Sam, if they go to open it, it will actually show next to delivered how many people opened it and also how many people replied. So those stats are actually only available to you guys as the site admins. Okay, so parents won't be able to see those types of stats. All right, great. So now I also mentioned about comments earlier, so not much to it, but basically if you click comment right here, and this would be Naomi commenting on her own post, which probably wouldn't be too common, but you never know, maybe she forgot something. Okay, so it's kind of like sub post, really. That's maybe a good way to think of it. And we can hit post there, and there it goes. So just, kind of organizes it underneath the original post there. Okay, great. So since we are now experts on, making group posts, which is the essential tool for teachers to communicate to their parents, we're going to show you guys now how to send out a newsletter. And, newsletters can be sent either from the dashboard or from the group. But since teachers will have access to their groups, they might as well just go ahead and click newsletters here, because that's what they're spending most of their time within the group, as opposed to the dashboard. So for you guys, you might want to send it from the back end. That's why, or that's how you can actually send to multiple groups at once. Teachers, on the other hand, they don't necessarily need to send to multiple groups, but they will need to send to their own classroom, right? So let's go ahead and click newsletters. Again, just to recap, this is just sending or creating a newsletter for this staff group, okay, not for anyone else. So it's very private to this group. All right, so we're going to hit create newsletter. I just want to mention that, again, just like creating the group, this button will not appear to regular parents or any members. However, it will appear to the group admins here. Okay, and by the way, you can have many group admins as you like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create newsletter. Okay, so that brings us to our newsletter editor here. Now, right off the bat, the first thing you want to do is probably just select a template. Okay, so we're going to click right here, and we've got all different types. Okay, personally, I like to use the handwritten template. And you can always modify, or edit the themes here. But it's just a good way to get you guys started here. Okay, so let's now go to the content section. So that's really the next step after you choose that template. Okay, now you can always change who email it's coming from, but more importantly, you want to change the name that it's coming from. Maybe you don't, maybe you do, but if you're a school, then it would be nice to have the email come from the school, right, or the teacher, depending on how you want that to look, and that's totally up to you guys. So, in our case, this can come from the Hubblyville Academy. Okay, so that can be the name of your school, and when you get the email, like when it gets an email, it'll show from Hubblyville Academy. So it'll all look really professional, which is great. And then of course, the subject is the most important. Okay, so that could be like the newsletter, fall newsletter, whatever it may be. And then so the email title, that's just for the newsletter now. So that can be the same thing. You can remove it if you don't want one, but you do have those options. So let's go ahead and just add content here. So the section is where you add all the content. You can add images, text, you can add links, all different types of things. And you can also expand it right here if you need more space. Okay, probably just want to find some type of compromise here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and see if we've got some pictures here in the media library that I can add. Okay, perfect. We've got a school bus, got a dog here, and hopefully we have a note, eh? And then we can also add our logo. So let me just insert the into the post. Cool. All right, so there are our images. And of course, you can always align them, to make it look nice. I'm just doing this pretty quickly, but hope you guys can get the idea here. Maybe want to move that down, maybe want to make it smaller. So you have all these tools at your disposal right there. Okay, and also have this toolbar and toggle off, so you'll know formatting. There's just extra formatting options here. So we can text bigger. We can colors here. And so here's what we're looking at. It's kind of like the preview. And then you notice the logo down there for the school. So you can always add that in, make it look nice and professional. And if I don't like the dog, I can remove it. So that's really the idea. And you can really get creative as you want with here. So let's say I'm complete, and now what I want to do is actually just see a preview of what this will look like. So we have a button, a really handy button actually. I'm going to close up this content here. What you can do is first save it, just to be on the safe side. Make sure we don't lose any work. And then you can just hit send test/preview. So if you click that button, you get a preview of this newsletter, what it will look like going out to the group, whether that's staff or parents. But the idea is there that you have peace of mind knowing what it looks like before it goes out. Okay, so other than that, there's one more thing I want to show you, and that's the send later feature. So this is our scheduling tool. Basically, if you click on that, you can actually program this or schedule it to go out at a later date, anytime and any day. So let's say, Friday 23rd. You can click on the time down here, and it will let you select, so let's say 1:30, and that would be on Friday. So we can always just hit schedule, and after you hit that, it takes care of itself, and it will just send out at that time and date. Cancel that. I don't want to schedule it. What I do want to do is actually just send it out right now. So let's say you're happy with it. What you can do is just hit send now right at the top here. Okay, and it says you want to save before sending, of course. I'm going to save my changes. Okay, and let's just give it a second here. So the newsletter is now, and there it goes. And it just automatically takes me to this page. I didn't have to close anything or quit out of anything. So that's now good to go. Okay, so on this page too, I want to mention that there's also the statistics. So the same ones that we saw in the group, you can also see the same ones here. So you can always keep track of how many people are have opened it and clicks. You can really get good engagement stats there. Now on top of that, so you don't have to worry, that anyone else can see these buttons here, like delete, clone, and edit, because really it's just for the group admin again. Parents, so the great part is, if they go to this page, they will be able to see the view button. Okay, so let me just click on it and show you what it looks like, right? So they can always view this in their user, but the great thing is they can do this at any time. So, maybe they missed out or they were too busy to see last month's. The good thing is they go in and you have a historical archive of all of the newsletters. Okay, so that's definitely helpful for parents. And what we're going to finish off with today's onboarding training is actually how to set a private message. So think of that, it's very similar to group post. The only difference is you're sending to one member as opposed to many. Okay, so if you want to, basically just send an email, I'm going to show you guys how to do that now. So, and I'll show you how to do it within the group because we're already here. So we just go to members, okay? So let's see, we want to send a message to, let's say John today. So I click on John, that's the first step. Okay, the second step, you guessed it, hit private message. Perfect. So now this is a private message from me, Naomi, okay, to John Smith. If I want to add another user to make it like a CC, you can actually add a username in right here. You can just start typing. Okay, so but assuming it's just, a one-on-one email, what you want to do is, so you'd add a subject. Okay, so you write up your email. There it is. And once you're happy with that, you hit send message. So not much to it, really easy to do. And you can always see an archive, okay? So conversation between John Smith and you. You can always see an archive of your messages, right? But the best part is you don't actually need to log in to see the user's response. So whether it's a get it in their email box, you can just go ahead, hit reply. That goes right back to your email inbox. And then at that point, you're just having a conversation as you normally would over email. So the benefit is that everything's being archived and tracked in Hubbli in case you ever need to look something up or maybe deleted an email in your inbox and you just want to come see it here. Okay, so it's up to you, whether you want to use your email inbox or Hubbli's private messaging tool. But at the end of the day, it's communication going back and forth. Okay, we are moving right along. Now, there is one final thing that I'd like to cover before we head out today, and so that's how to add a second user as a group admin. So we call it promoting them to a group admin, and that's just a designation, and it's not a role, because a role would give them access to the dashboard, and that's not what you want. What you do want is for them to be promoted to the group admin so that they can actually communicate in addition to whoever is already the group admin. So you can have 3, 4, 5, teachers be able, having the ability to communicate to one classroom group if you'd like. So let's go ahead. The first step we've already done. That's actually just to add them to the group as members, right? So we've already done that. We did it in bulk. We did it individually. By the way, you guys can see that someone has opened it, right? So it looks like, and you can always click in, and it looks like Sam has seen that email. So there we go. But let's not get carried away. What we want to do, so we added them to the group, right? And we can see that down here, Sam, John. So we're going to promote one of them to the group admin alongside Naomi here. That way they can communicate and they can also manage the group. So we're going to click on manage here. Okay. And we're going to go to members, not to be confused with the members tab on the left side. That's for parents and general users. This is under manage and then members, and that's actually just for the group admins or site admins. They can always access everything. So, and you get it again, we want to promote John here to the group admin. So we click right here. We're working within this group, and you don't have to worry about whether that's the role versus a group admin, because you can't update roles from the front end of the website here. So anytime you would want to promote someone to an actual administrator as a role on your site so that they could manage things from the dashboard, you wouldn't do it from here. This is more so, specific to the group admin designation, right? Which is essential in order for them to be able to communicate with their class. And so there we have it, administrators, for this group. We've got 2, and then we've got regular members as well. You can also remove them from the group here, but I recommend the user list on the dashboard. All right. So if nobody has any final questions here for today's session, then that will conclude it. And so you guys have all been a pleasure today. Thanks for joining. And you're going to receive, you'll also be able to watch this webinar, the recording of it, at any time. So if you need to recap anything or you forgot something, don't worry. You can always access these links at any time. And you should get an email with a link to these recordings as well. All right, so guys, don't forget to fill out your onboarding form if you haven't got a chance to. And if nothing else, then I will be seeing you all tomorrow for our onboarding number 2 session. All right, well, thanks so much, guys, and have a great day.